Chosen ones, the spiritual realms just shifted in your favor, and your enemies felt it before you did. Right now, the people who orchestrated your pain are standing in quicksand of their own making. They're sinking fast, and they can't figure out why the ground suddenly gave way beneath their feet. Something massive is unfolding. The whispers they spread, the traps they laid, the betrayals they celebrated are all detonating in their faces. They thought they were playing chess with your life. They had no idea they were setting up dominoes that would fall back on them. Every move they made against you has been log-tracked and is now being returned to sender with compound interest. Here's the twist they never saw coming. Your enemies have been set up, not by you scheming in the shadows, not by you plotting revenge. By something far more powerful than human strategy. Divine justice has been building a case, and the verdict just came down, guilty on all counts, and the sentencing phase. It's brutal. I'm about to show you exactly what's happening behind the veil. Why your enemies are suddenly confused, sick, and scrambling. Why their plans are collapsing like houses of cards in a hurricane. Why you're about to witness the most poetic justice you've ever seen, and why you need to understand your role in what comes next. Think of a hunter setting a snare for a lion, not realizing the lion is behind him the whole time. Your enemies spent years crafting elaborate traps, baiting them with pieces of your life. But while they were busy preparing your destruction, they stepped backward into the very pit they dug. And the hunter has become the prey. Let's go back to the beginning. Before you knew what you were just trying to live, trying to build something decent, trying to love the people around you. You didn't understand why certain people seemed allergic to your peace, why your light made them recoil like vampires at dawn, why your simple existence felt like a threat to their comfort. They saw something in you that terrified them, not your strength, not yet. They saw your potential. They saw what you could become if life didn't break you first. So they made it their mission to do the breaking. They took your trust and weaponized it. They studied your kindness like a blueprint, looking for weak points. They gathered others, built coalitions of mediocrity, all united by one goal, dimming your light before it fully ignited. Some of these people share your blood. Family members who should have protected you, but instead handed you over to the wolves. They watched you struggle and did nothing. Worse, they joined in. They laughed at your failures. They celebrated your losses like personal victories. They told themselves stories to justify it. You were too proud, too different, too much the truth. You were too bright and it hurt their eyes, torn eyes. Others were friends or what you thought were friends, classmates who smiled to your face and sharpened knives behind your back, colleagues who stole your ideas and called them innovation, partners who took your loyalty and traded it for convenience. They all had one thing in common. They believed you wouldn't survive what they had planned. Here's what you need to understand. Their attacks weren't random. This wasn't casual cruelty. They studied you. They waited for moments when you were vulnerable. They struck when you were already down, kicking you while you gasped for air. They took homes, finances, relationships, dignity. They took things that can't be replaced and things that can't be measured. They tried to take your will to continue. And for a moment, maybe you believed them. Maybe you looked in the mirror and saw what they wanted you to see. A failure, a victim, someone life happened to instead of someone who happens to life. Maybe you carried their words like stones in your pockets, weighing you down with every step. Maybe their laughter became the soundtrack to your worst nights, but something in you wouldn't break. Something in you refused to accept their version of your story. That something was your choosing. That spark that made you a target in the first place. That unquenchable thing they spent years trying to extinguish. It didn't just survive. It was forging you into something they never anticipated. Pronto, your chewed panic spar of target. Proud of target, cop in your John or cop in your jaunt. Cop in your John when a gut can prep out of target. Cop your John, co your John pronto bet about of target. Cop your John ant, pronto about target. Cop your John, pronto about target. Cop your John ant. Pronto about target, cop your John. 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 Pronto about target, cop your Jint. Pronto of target copant. Every time they celebrated your pain, the universe was taking notes. Every time they thought they'd won, they were actually sealing their own fate. Because here's the thing about chosen ones. The more you suffer unjustly, the more the scales tip in your favor. It's not karma, it's cosmic law. Now we're entering the shift. This is where everything changes. This is where their carefully constructed plans start falling apart like wet paper. You might not see it yet, but it's happening right now. As you watch this, your enemies are experiencing something they can't explain. A creeping sensation that something's wrong, that the ground beneath them isn't as solid as it was yesterday. Their confidence is cracking. The same people who walked around like they owned the world are suddenly looking over their shoulders. They're having trouble sleeping. Their minds race with thoughts they can't control. Anxiety creeps into their chest at random moments. They feel exposed, vulnerable, like someone's watching them. Even when they're alone, they are. Divine justice doesn't blink. Let me tell you what's happening in the invisible realms. Every action they took against you, every word spoken in malice, every scheme plotted in secret, has been recorded, not metaphorically, actually documented in the spiritual ledgers that govern this reality. And now those ledgers are being balanced. The debt is being collected with interest. If this message hits your spirit, hype this video so more chosen ones like you can find it. Some of your enemies are getting sick. Bodies that once felt invincible are betraying them. Mysterious ailments that doctors can't quite explain. Chronic pain that appears without injury. Exhaustion that sleep doesn't cure. Their physical forms are manifesting the spiritual corruption they've been carrying. The poison they tried to feed you is now coursing through their own veins. Others are losing their minds, literally. The mental clarity they used to plot against you has turned to fog. They forget things. They make mistakes they never would have made before. Their judgment fails them at crucial moments. Decision after decision leads them deeper into chaos. They're trapped in loops of their own creation, repeating patterns that destroy them while wondering why nothing works anymore. Their relationships are imploding. The people they gathered against you are turning on each other. Suspicion spreads like disease through their ranks. Trust evaporates. The alliances built on your destruction have no foundation, so they collapse under the weight of their own toxicity. They're discovering that people who betray with you will eventually betray you. Loyalty built on darkness cannot survive the light. Money is drying up. The wealth they flaunted, the resources they used as weapons, it's flowing away from them like water through broken fingers. Investments fail. Opportunities vanish. What they thought was secured crumbles. The abundance they used to mock your lack is being stripped away piece by piece. They're learning that stolen prosperity never lasts. And here's the twist they never saw coming. They're searching for you desperately, obsessively. They're looking in all the old places, the old patterns, trying to find you where you used to be. They want to see you still broken, still struggling, still beneath them. They need that confirmation that they still have power over you. But you're not there. You're not in those old spaces anymore. You've been elevated, not physically relocated, but spiritually promoted. You're operating on a frequency they can no longer access. God has hidden you in plain sight. You're visible, but they can't perceive you, not the real you, not the transformed you. They see a ghost, an echo of who you were, and it confuses them, enrages them. How did you escape? When did you become untouchable? This is the part where we talk about what you became through the fire. Because while they were celebrating your suffering, transformation was happening. While they were counting their victories, you were being refined into something that doesn't break, doesn't bend, doesn't burn. The trials they put you through were supposed to destroy you. Instead, they forged you into the exact weapon needed to dismantle their illusions. You learned discernment. You can spot manipulation from miles away. Now, the masks people wear are transparent to you. You see through false smiles and hollow promises. You recognize energy vampires before they can latch on. Your enemies gave you the greatest gift. They taught you exactly who not to trust and exactly what red flags look like. That education is priceless. You developed resilience that borders on supernatural. Things that would break normal people barely slow you down now. You've walked through storms that drowned others. You've survived losses that would have ended weaker spirits. Your capacity to endure has expanded beyond human limits. Not because you're trying to be strong, but because you've been forced to discover strength. Has become razor sharp. You know things before they happen. You feel shifts in energy that others miss completely. You can walk into a room and immediately sense who's for you and who's against you. This isn't paranoia. This is refined spiritual perception. Your enemies tried to kill your trust and accidentally awakened your inner knowing. Now you're guided by something more reliable than human words. You've become dangerous in the best possible way. Not violent, not cruel, but powerful. You carry authority that makes weak people uncomfortable. Your presence alone disrupts spaces built on lies. You don't have to say anything. Your energy speaks volumes. People feel the shift when you enter. Respect replaces the pity they used to offer. Fear replaces the arrogance they used to display. And here's what's really beautiful. You've developed compassion that coexists with boundaries. You can feel empathy without becoming a doormat. You can extend grace without accepting disrespect. You've learned the difference between being kind and being weak. Your enemies tried to teach you to be hard, and instead, you became balanced, soft enough to love deeply, strong enough to walk away cleanly. This is why they can't find you. You're not the same person they knew. That version died in the fires they lit. What emerged is someone they have no reference point for, no strategy against, no power over. They're searching for a victim and finding a victor. They're looking for broken and discovering whole. The confusion is scrambling their circuits. Meanwhile, you're walking in a peace they can't comprehend. Not because everything's perfect, but because you finally understand the game. You see the bigger picture. You recognize that their attacks were never about you. They were about their own inadequacy, their own fears, their own spiritual bankruptcy. Hurt people. Broken people try to break others. You're simply done taking it personally. But here's where it gets interesting. Here's where divine justice starts looking less like a concept and more like a force of nature. Your enemies aren't just confused, they're being actively dismantled. Every support system they relied on is being removed. Every crutch is being kicked away. Every illusion of control is being shattered. They're experiencing the full weight of consequences they thought they'd escaped. Remember those family members who betrayed you? They're discovering that betrayal is a boomerang. The same tactics they used on you are being used on them. They're learning what it feels like to be abandoned when you need support. They're experiencing rejection from their own circles. The pain they inflicted is being returned to sender, multiplied. Those former friends who joined your enemies, their lives are unraveling in ways they can't explain. Relationships falling apart, opportunities vanishing, reputation crumbling. They're being exposed for exactly what they are. Fair-weather allies who lack integrity. People are seeing them clearly now. The masks are coming off whether they want them to or not. The colleagues who stole from you. Their stolen success is rotting. Projects they took credit for are failing. Ideas they claimed as their own are backfiring. They're being revealed as frauds. Their competence is being questioned. Their value is being reassessed. They're realizing that borrowed light always dims. Authenticity can't be faked forever. Partners who used you. They're drowning in the exact emptiness they created. The voids they left in others are now consuming them. They're starving for the loyalty they never gave. They're desperate for the love they never earned. They're seeking the grace they never extended and finding none of it because you can't harvest what you didn't plant. Some of them are trying to reach out now, sending messages, dropping hints through mutual connections, testing to see if you're still accessible. They sense something's wrong in their world, and some instinct tells them you're connected to it. They're right, but not in the way they think. You're not cursing them. You're simply no longer absorbing the chaos they create. It's bouncing back to them naturally. Others are too proud to reach out, still believing they can fix this themselves. They're trying harder, pushing more, forcing outcomes through sheer will. Every effort makes things worse. They're like drowning people who won't grab the life preserver because they refuse to admit they're drowning. Pride is expensive. They're learning the cost. And then there are the completely unrepentant ones. The hardened hearts who would do it all again. Who still mock you in their minds. Who curse your name when things go wrong. These are the ones heading for the harshest lessons because divine justice scales with intention. Accidental harm gets corrected. Intentional, sustained, gleeful cruelty gets something else entirely. They're about to find out what. Now let's address something important. You might be feeling conflicted right now. Part of you sees their suffering and feels vindicated. Finally, proof that you weren't crazy. Finally, evidence that the universe is just. Finally, validation that you didn't deserve what they did. That part of you wants to watch them fall. Wants front row seats to their destruction. Wants to say, I told you so, until your voice gives out. But there's another part. The part that still remembers who you are at your core. The part that never wanted any of this. That just wanted peace, wanted love, wanted simple human decency. This part feels uncomfortable with their suffering, even though they never felt uncomfortable with yours. This part wonders if celebrating their downfall makes you just like them. Let me settle this for you. It doesn't. Recognizing that justice is being served is not the same as seeking revenge. Acknowledging that consequences are unfolding is not the same as cursing them. Understanding that divine order is being restored is not the same as wishing harm. You're not like them. You never were. Even now, even seeing their fall, you're not finding joy in their pain. You're finding relief in vindication. There's nothing wrong with feeling validated. You spent years being told you were the problem, gaslit into believing you deserved the treatment, convinced that if you just changed, adjusted, became smaller, they'd treat you better. You tried that. It didn't work because the problem was never you. Seeing them face consequences confirms what you always knew deep down. You were wronged, period. And here's what's really important. Their suffering isn't about punishment. It's about wake-up calls. It's about opportunities to change course. Divine justice isn't petty or cruel. It's corrective. Every consequence they face is an invitation to look inward, to acknowledge harm caused, to choose differently. Some will take that invitation. Many won't, but the invitation is there. Now let me put you onto something real. Destiny Engine. I built this because I was done watching chosen ones get dragged through betrayal, isolation, and attacks, while their enemies strutted around unchecked. I want to help you accelerate the speed of your divine justice and step fully into your purpose. And the beauty of it, you don't even have to lift a finger. Destiny Engine takes their downfall and flips it into your rise. This isn't another meditation app. It's declassified consciousness technology, the same mind programming tools your enemies once used to install fear, competition, and scarcity. Re-engineered to restore your sovereignty and align you with the cooperative upgraded operating framework. It generates personalized sequences mapped to your divine purpose. The hardest thing you'll do is put on headphones, press play, and watch your enemies keep digging their own grave. The collective upgrade is underway. Start your Destiny Engine for $1 today and turn everything they did to break you into fuel for your rise. Link in the description. This is where your role becomes interesting. You're being called to something higher, not revenge, but prayer, not celebration, but intercession. I know what you're thinking. Why should you pray for people who showed you no mercy? Why should you extend grace to people who gave you none? Because you're chosen. Because you're different? Because you're being asked to demonstrate what they never could. Actual strength. Praying for your enemies isn't weakness, it's power. It's you saying, I'm so secure in my position, so confident in my protection, so clear about my elevation that your destruction doesn't define my victory. It's you breaking the cycle. It's you choosing light when you have every reason to choose darkness. It's you being the person they could never be. Your prayers aren't about letting them off the hook. Consequences still unfold. Justice still happens. But your prayers can be the difference between them learning from this or being destroyed by it. Your prayers can crack the hardness around their hearts, can create space for clarity in their confusion, can offer them one last chance to choose differently before it's too late. And honestly, praying for them frees you. As long as you're carrying hate, rage, bitterness toward them, they still have power over you. They're still occupying space in your mind rentrée. They're still controlling your emotional state. Prayer cuts that cord. Please you, saying, I release you to face what you created. I release me from carrying what you did. We're done here. Drumpati, let's talk about what you're being released into, because this isn't just about escaping your enemies. It's about stepping into your actual purpose. Everything you went through was preparation. Every attack was training. Every loss was clearing space. You weren't being destroyed. You were being refined for something they couldn't even imagine. You have wisdom now that most humanity and chose not to become it. You've experienced betrayal and chose not to become a betrayer. You've known suffering and chose not to inflict it on others. This makes you rare. This makes you valuable. This makes you exactly what the world needs. Your story is testimony. Every scar is proof of survival. Every tear was investment in depth. Every moment of despair that you push through is evidence of strength that can't be taught, only earned. People need to hear what you've been through and how you made it out. Your voice carries weight because it's been tested in fire. You're being positioned for influence you didn't ask for but absolutely earned. Doors are about to open that your enemies tried to weld shut. Opportunities are about to appear that they swore you'd never see. Connections are about to form that they worked to prevent. Their very attempts to limit you have become the reason for your expansion. Resistance creates pressure. Pressure creates diamonds. Everything they took is being restored, not the same way, not to the same places, but restored nonetheless. Better upgraded, elevated. The home they took, a better one's coming. The money they stole, more is flowing. The relationships they poisoned, healthier ones are forming. The dignity they tried to strip, it's been permanently attached to you by divine decree. You can't lose what God has sealed. And here's the beautiful part. You don't have to fight for any of it. You don't have to force, manipulate, scheme. You just have to stay in position. Keep your heart right. Keep your motives pure. Keep your focus forward. The restoration happens automatically because it's not coming from you. It's coming through you. Big difference. Your enemies are about to watch you receive everything they tried to prevent. They're going to see you elevated while they're falling. They're going to witness your joy while they're in torment. They're going to know that their attacks didn't just fail. They backfired so spectacularly that you ended up higher than if they'd never touched you at all. That's divine mathematics. That's God showing off. Some of them will learn, will see your restoration, and finally understand what they were fighting against. Will recognize that they weren't battling you. They were battling destiny. And destiny always wins. These ones might reach out in genuine repentance. If they do, you'll know. Your discernment will confirm it, and you can extend mercy from your elevated position if you choose. Others will double down, will see your success and become more bitter, will watch you thrive and hate you more, will refuse to acknowledge any connection between their actions and their suffering. These people are beyond your concern. They've chosen their path. Your job isn't to save people who don't want saving. Your job is to keep rising. We're approaching the climax now, the moment where everything converges. Your enemies are in full collapse. Their confusion has become chaos. Their pain has become crisis. They're at crossroads. Some are genuinely seeking answers, starting to connect dots, beginning to understand. Others are hardening further, blaming everyone but themselves, cursing existence itself. Meanwhile, you're experiencing something they can't touch. Peace in the middle of the storm, joy despite the circumstances, clarity while they're drowning in confusion. You're walking in authority that doesn't come from human achievement. You're moving with confidence that isn't based on external validation. You've tapped into something they don't have access to. This is what being chosen actually means. It's not about being better than other people. It's about being selected for a specific assignment. You were chosen to carry light into dark spaces, to demonstrate strength through suffering, to model grace under pressure, to prove that wickedness doesn't win, to show that love is more powerful than hate, even when hate seems to be winning. Your enemies tried to disqualify you from your assignment. Every attack was an attempt to make you quit, to make you bitter, to make you become like them. If they could corrupt you, they could nullify your purpose. If they could break your spirit, they could void your calling. They threw everything they had at you because somewhere deep down they knew what you were. They knew you were dangerous to the kingdom of darkness they served. But you didn't break. Bent, yes. Bruised, absolutely brought to your knees repeatedly, but not broken. That core inside you that they couldn't reach, no matter how hard they tried. That was your choosing. That was the mark that says this one belongs to God. That was the seal they couldn't break because they didn't have the authority. Now comes the harvest. You planted seeds without even knowing it. Every time you chose kindness when you could have chosen cruelty. Every time you spoke truth when lying would have been easier. Every time you maintained integrity when everyone else was cutting corners. Seeds, and seeds always produce after their kind. What's about to grow in your life will shock you. Opportunities that seemed impossible, connections that seemed improbable, breakthroughs that seemed illogical. It's all harvest from seeds planted in the dark when nobody was watching, from choices made in pain when it would have been easier to quit, from faith maintained in silence when everyone said you were crazy. Your enemies planted seeds too. Every insult, every betrayal, every scheme. They're harvesting now, reaping what they sowed. And the crop is bitter, poisonous, destructive. They're choking on the fruit of their own hands. And the tragic part, some of them still don't understand why. Still blaming external forces, still playing victim, still refusing to look in the mirror. Here's what happens next. Your life enters a new chapter that has nothing to do with them. They become irrelevant. Not because you're trying to forget them, but because you're building something they're not invited to. You're stepping into spaces they don't have clearance for. You're operating at levels they can't perceive. They'll hear about you through the grapevine, through mutual connections, through social media. They'll see glimpses of your life, the success, the joy, the peace, and it will confuse them more than anything else they've experienced. How did the person they destroyed not only survive, but thrive? How did the victim become the victor? How did the targeted become untouchable? Some will try to reconnect, suddenly remembering they always believed in you, conveniently forgetting the knives they planted in your back, testing waters to see if they can access your new level. You'll smile, be polite, and keep them at a distance so far they might as well be on another planet. Because wisdom remembers, discernment doesn't forget. Others will start their own spiritual journeys. Your elevation will haunt them into seeking answers. They'll wonder what you know that they don't, what you have access to that they can't find. Some will find their way to genuine transformation. Their suffering will have served its purpose. These ones might thank you one day for staying strong when they tried to break you, for being the mirror that showed them what they'd become. But most will just fade into the background of your life, supporting characters who served their purpose in your origin story. Villains who thought they were writing your ending, but were actually setting up your beginning. They'll go back to their lives, carrying the lessons they refused to learn, repeating patterns that will keep destroying them until they finally wake up. And you'll be too busy living to care, too focused on your purpose to look back, too committed to your future to dwell in the past. Not because you're trying to be cold or dismissive, but because you finally understand that your story was never about them. They were just obstacles that made you stronger, sandpaper that smoothed your rough edges, pressure that created your diamond. Let me tell you what's waiting for you: a life built on truth instead of lies. Relationships based on mutual respect instead of manipulation. Success earned through integrity instead of stolen through schemes. Peace that comes from knowing who you are instead of pretending to be what others want. Joy that can't be taken because it's not dependent on external circumstances. You're about to meet people who see you clearly and choose you anyway, who don't need you to be smaller to feel bigger, who celebrate your wins instead of envying them, who have your back in the dark because they genuinely love you in the light. Real ones, authentic souls, your actual tribe. Resources are about to flow in ways that feel miraculous. Money from unexpected sources. Opportunities that appear out of nowhere. Ideas that download into your mind fully formed. Divine favor that opens doors no human could have opened. Not because you're special in the conventional sense, but because you're aligned. You're positioned. You're ready. Your voice is about to reach people who need exactly what you've learned. Your story is going to unlock chains on people you've never met. Your testimony is going to give hope to people sitting in darkness. You've already escaped. Your journey is going to become a roadmap for others trying to find their way out. This is why you had to go through it. This is why you couldn't quit. And your enemies, they're going to have front row seats to all of it. Unable to stop it, unable to taint it, unable to access it, watching from a distance as you become everything they tried to prevent. Living proof that their attacks didn't work. Walking testimony that God's plans can't be stopped by human schemes. Breathing evidence that chosen ones don't stay down. So where does this leave us? Right here, right now, at the threshold of your new reality. Not by you, but by the consequences of their own actions. The traps they laid have become their prisons. The weapons they forged have turned in their hands. The darkness they tried to throw you into has become their own eternal night. And you're walking into light that keeps getting brighter. Each step takes you further from who you were and closer to who you were always meant to be. Each day brings new revelation about your purpose. Each moment offers opportunities to choose elevation over revenge, peace over chaos, love over hate. This is your vindication, not because your enemies are suffering, but because you're not. You survived what should have killed you. You held on to hope when logic said give up. You maintained faith when evidence suggested God forgot your address. You stayed true when everyone said compromise. And now the payoff is here. The universe is rewarding your faithfulness. God is honoring your endurance. Divine justice is restoring what was stolen and adding interest. Your enemies see it happening and can't stop it, can't explain it, can't replicate it because it's not for them. It's for you, the chosen one who refused to quit. Remember when you felt alone, you weren't. Remember when you thought nobody saw, they did. Remember when you wondered if it would ever get better? It is. Everything that happened in the dark is being brought to light. Every tear you cried was collected. Every prayer you whispered was heard. Every moment you endured was documented. Your enemies are being dealt with. Their time is short. Their power is broken. Their confusion is permanent until they repent. But your time is now. Your power is activated. Your clarity is crystalline. You're operating in a realm they can't access because they refuse to pay the price you paid. This is the beginning, not the end. What you're seeing with your enemies is just the opening act. The real show is what's about to happen in your life. The elevation, the expansion, the explosion of purpose, the manifestation of promises spoken over you before you were born. They tried to abort your destiny. Instead, they accelerated it. So stand tall. Walk confidently. Speak boldly. You're not who you used to be. You're not going where you've been. You're not living how you once lived. You're chosen. You're protected. You're elevated. You're unstoppable. And your enemies, whether they know it or not, were just instruments that refined you into the weapon God needed you to become. Their setup is complete. Your setup is just beginning.